Ministry of Education and Education Commission, in collaboration with stakeholders, to deliberate on the pace research towards the lack of educational quality that surround primary school child, with an intention to create political awareness on the need for the countries to be intentional on making education adaptive in order for the learner to receive quality education delivered globally.
Cannot just go and talk about financing, it needs to be backed by some evidence. If you don't have the money, how do you invest that money? How do you prioritize? So the Education Commission do a lot of research, and the researches we do resulted in a report that was published in 2016, calling it Learning Generation Report. You can Google it, you have that report there. That report highlights key areas where every country needs to be focusing on in order for us to have effective education delivery in countries globally. And since then, the Commission has been working with countries to implement the recommendations. And to do that, we have divided the work we do into 5 key areas. We call them transformation areas. The first one is learning transformation. Here we're talking about new model.
According to the lead innovative pedagogies project, Dr. Sam Awuku, in his interview with Nation One TV, said that there's need for Ghana, Rwanda, and Kenya to work with government to develop action plan to address any gap in educational system in order to provide the inclusive and adaptive education to the learner.
Saying that the Education Commission, based in America, chaired by Gordon Brown, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, now the UN Convoy for Global Education, in 2020, when COVID struck the whole world, there was a need for governments to come together to think about education, reimagining education to ensure that learning crisis prior to COVID has not turned into catastrophe. So the Commission, working with stakeholders, engaging 163 countries, developed a white paper called Save Our Future. This white paper has got 7 action areas. Action area 1 talk about children returning to school safely, and action area 2 talk about, as a result of the COVID, how can education systems become inclusive, become adaptive, provide engaging and playful pedagogies so that learners can learn, so that learners are not left behind, so that every child, wherever they are, they can receive quality education. So that's the genesis of this piece of project that we are working with the government of Ghana and the Institute of Educational Planning and Administration at the University of Cape Coast to do. The intention of the project is to create political awareness about these areas, the need for countries to be intentional about making education system adaptive. Because if we don't do that, if another pandemic to strike, how will education be able to respond quickly, right? And if it's adaptive, then learners are everywhere. How can we ensure that they are all receiving quality education? But the question we are asking at this moment in time is that the 3 countries in which we are doing this project, Ghana, Rwanda, and Kenya, how is the system like? If we talk about inclusive, adaptive, and engaging pedagogies, what's happening? If we know what is happening and what is not happening, we can then work with government to develop action plans. And that is where this project stopped. The project at the moment, by September, will stop at supporting government of Ghana, Rwanda, and Kenya to develop action plan to address any gap in the system in providing inclusive, engaging, adaptive education to learners. After that, if Ghana government is willing, the commission will work with Ghana government to look for funding to implement anything that is identified. So that's where we are here today. So we're talking of people who are in the remote areas, people who are in the suburban area, people who are in urban areas, people who have learning challenges, people who are marginalized, those who became pregnant and they have to drop out of school. How can they come back into the education sector? If we talk of children who are struggling, people who have dyslexia, for example, they cannot write, people who cannot, people who write two opposites, right? Dyscalculia, people who have attention deficiency disorder, people who are autistic, all these learners, how can we ensure that they are receiving quality education? There are learners at this stage who are age 9, 10, they cannot even write their names. How can we ensure that they can be able to receive quality education? So inclusion is talking about making education accessible to everybody, making learning accessible to everybody so that everybody is achieving according to their potential. That's what we mean. When we say adapting the education provision, we say that we do not, one size does not fit all, right? So if you're going to be providing education to people who are having learning challenges, do you force the same curriculum on them as you do for people who are bright or able? You need to adapt the system for them. That's why, for example, you use assistive devices, or you put some of the things in braille for people who cannot see, can also access. So all of that is part of the adaptive. Engaging, we have a lot of ways of teaching. Role play, for example. Play is a very important and very useful approach to teach youngsters. Before we go to school, we play, right? Why can't you use the same approach to teach youngsters? I will always give you this example. People think that you can only use play in primary school or KG, even secondary school. Play is very useful learning approach, but we don't really take it serious. So we want to find out in these three countries we operate in this, what is happening in terms of this? What are success stories? We know some fantastic things are happening. We need to know those ones. And then ask ourselves, what else can we do? Right? The what can we do is also very important if we want to move our education to the next level.
Also speaking at the event was the Director General, Dr. Michael Yadom. In his interview, stated that there's need to engage the collective stakeholders in order to discuss the gap and the barriers that they have realized in schools and the needed implementation which must be put in place.
In collaboration with the Government of Ghana and Education Commission, and look for additional funding to embark on a more focused, a larger research to try to address these gaps and these barriers. So we've done we've developed few instruments to collect the data. So for instance, we have an interview guide, a discussion guide for this particular policy dialogue. After the dialogue, we have instruments to go to the field and do the rapid research. Rapid research means it's going to be fast, it's going to be centered around few areas in the country. So we'll sample few areas in the country and then do this quickly. That is why it's ending in September. After September, based on the story that we're able to tell, then we can look at going broader and covering larger areas in Ghana. So this is beyond September. This particular one, we are focusing on primary school learners. So the focus is on primary school. So we are looking at primary school, and then we are looking at primary school teachers. We are looking at heads of primary schools. Then we are also looking at the basic school division within the Ministry of Education. We are looking at NASIA, which is in charge of school inspection. That is why you have the CISOs around.
The CISOs, circuit supervisors.
Correct, circuit supervisors. But they are in charge of the inspection. They are within the inspectorate. Yes, so they go to the schools to make sure that teachers are doing what they must be doing, to make sure that they are achieving their targets and all that. So we want to also speak with them, so they are here. We are also involving NACA, which is in charge of curriculum. What do we have in the curriculum? Are there some aspects of the curriculum that needs to be improved in terms of innovations? So we're also involving NACA. We are involving National Teaching Council, which is in charge of the professional licensing of teachers. So how do we get them involved in terms of issues of professionalism, issues of ethics in the teaching profession? So we realize that we believe this project is for the Ministry of Education. We are just facilitating the project.
According to the assessment and pedagogy expert, Professor Eric Hanna said that they are ready to ensure the adaptive learning through enabled environment to support the children with environmental learning curriculum.
I need to be able to give you the opportunity to critically think or get involved in the activities yourself. So we want to make sure that our classroom becomes active and students learn using their senses, okay? And all that they know is brought to bear on their learning. So they are not told what to do. But we need to organize, therefore, the environment such that it will be able to support the learning that you want to take. Because if you want students to be active learners, then you need to provide them material. What we normally say is children are destroying. They don't destroy. They are breaking down. They are doing analysis of the thing. And out of that, they learn. So we need to engage the learners. Engagement means teach them how to get involved. And then adaptive. What do we mean by adaptive? Adaptive means adjust the learning situation to the conditions of the child. They are all coming from an environment. They know something. Sometimes we think that children don't know anything. So we are coming to tell them they know a lot. So how do you adjust to the knowledge, the prior knowledge of the learner? How do you build the knowledge base of the learner on the environment the person is already functioning? So we don't talk about issues which are foreign. We need to relate the environment. But we are not saying that, yes, don't talk about foreign things. After all, we are talking about global citizens. If they are global citizens, then they need to understand other issues, which is also foreign, because now the world is becoming a global village. But start them from their immediate community and project upwards. So we don't talk about issues that are so foreign to the learners. So it means you can differentiate the learning. If you are talking about tree crops, it shouldn't always be cocoa. What about shea butter? What about other forms of timber? What about that we can use? What about coconut and other things? What about cocoa? So wherever I find myself, whatever is immediate in my environment, you should be able to adjust the learning to that. So the whole of this dialogue is to bring some of these issues out, so that in designing our curriculum, in training our people, in designing our classrooms, how can we make sure that everybody is considered to be able to function in the society we want to develop our children?